Sotah Daf Lamed Aleph contains the conclusion of the fifth parak of the Masechta and the entire sixth parak of the Masechta. The end of the fifth is a discussion about Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, and is a discussion about Eov, which was referenced in our last Mishnah, and then we get into the entire sixth parak of the Masechta, which is pretty much been referenced at length in the first parak, discussing the limudim as to how many witnesses you need to show that a woman was either in kinui or in stira or temeya or any of these three. So let's begin the Gemara. The Gemara is referencing our last Mishnah where we said that Eov served HaKadosh Baruch Hu until the end. So the Mishnah had said that it was a suffix how you read the pasuk, whether that's really what it means or not, because it says, "Hey niktaleni loy yachel." If you will kill me, loy, I will hope to him, could be read as loy yachel, I will hope to him, I will hope, or loy yachel, I will not hope. So it's a suffix which what it means. So the Gemara asks, why don't you just look how it's spelled? If the word loy is spelled with a vav, it means I will hope to him, and he still has b'tachan and Hashem. If it's loy with an aleph, then it's I will not have hope to him. So the Gemara says that wouldn't prove, because the word loy with an aleph could mean him and no. It could mean both of them. And we see that in the pasuk that says, B'chol tzarasam loy tzar, and spelled with an aleph. Yet it must mean that in all our pain, B'chol tzarasam loy tzar, it is pain to him, it is painful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as well. Kaviyachal. How do you see that? Because right afterwards it says that he saved us. And because it says, U'malach panav hoshiyim, bi'avasai, v'chemlasai. So you see that loy with an aleph could sometimes mean same as it means with a vav. Now, in our understanding, that is a kri ksiv, and the loy with an aleph is the ksiv, but the kri is loy with a vav. But the Gemara here seems to understand it as loy could mean both words. Now the Gemara discusses the Yiras Hashem of Eov and Avraham. So the Brisa says that Rabbi Meir says, it says Yir Elikim by Eov, and then it says Yir Elikim by Avram. And just like the Yir Elikim by Avram was not fear of punishment or fear of suffering, but a fear of the awe, meaning not really fear, but a type of love actually, because it refers to the awesomeness, the Yiras Haroimimus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the same thing applies to Eov. Now how do you know that when it says fear, when it says Yir by Avram, that's what it means? Because by Avram it speaks of his love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like it says there, Avraham, Oy Havi Avram, who is my beloved. So now the Gemara asks, what is the difference between serving Hashem out of love and out of fear? And here we're referring to real fear, fear of suffering. So the Gemara says there's a major difference. And we're quotes a Brisa of Shimon ben Elazar, who says the one who serves the HaKadosh Baruch Hu out of love is much greater than one who serves out of fear. For serving out of love makes any punishment be suspended for thousands of generations, and well, serving out of fear is only for 1,000 generations, because it says La'alafim lo'hevai l'shomrim mitzvosai. Therefore, you see that the many thousands for ohavai, but as far as fear, it says l'shomrim mitzvosav lo'eleftar, only for 1,000. So the Gemara asks, but there that pasuk also mentions oihavav. It says lo'evav l'shomrim mitzvosav. The Gemara says no, but the word there, elef, is closer to the yira. It's not closer to the oihavav. So now the Gemara relates to conclude the parak. There were two Talmidim that were sitting before Rava. One said, I heard being read in my dream the pasuk Marav Tivcha Asher Tzafanta L'Riyacha, how great is the good which you have hidden for the ones who fear you. And the other one said, I heard read in my dream, V'yismuchu kol chaysi bach, they will rejoice all those who hope to you, Lo'elam forever, Yarnenu, they will sing, V'yalvatzu, and they will be joyful bach, and you, Oyhavei shemecha, those who love your name. So the first Talmud had Yirei Echad, and the second one had Oyhavei shemecha. So he said, both of you are tzaddikim gemurim, but one is out of love and one is out of fear. This concludes the fifth parak, and now we begin, and we will learn the entire sixth parak of the Masechta. There is one Mishnah in the sixth parak of the Masechta, and that discusses how we establish, what types of testimony do we need to establish whether the different stages of Sotah occurred or not. So the first thing is that Kina happened, the second stage is that Stira happened, and the third would be to potentially establish that a Tumah happened. So the Mishnah gives it to us in a somewhat inverted order, but let's go in order. So as far as that the kinui happens, in our Mishnah, everyone agrees you need to have two Eidim for that you have to have clear testimony that occurred. The Gemara learns it out from a Gzeira Shava for the fact that it says Ki Motza Ba'ervaz Dovar, and later it says in the Parsha of Edus says Abishnei Meidim Yakum Dovar. Just like that, Dovar's two witnesses, Ki Motza Ba'ervaz Dovar's two witnesses, you have to have two witnesses for the actual kinoi. So that we know has to be. Now, as far as that the steer happens in Machlekes, Rabbi Eliezer says you don't have to have any proof at all. Even if he says a bird told a husband that the steer happened, he can go with that and take her to Beis Din for the drinking of the Sotah water. Rabbi Shua says you have to have either two witnesses. That's not mentioned here, but it's mentioned on the Vav. Or he says you have to have that all the women who knit in the moonlight are all talking about her pritza, so that it's well known that she had, it's the talk of the town that she behaved in this unseeming manner. Now, this is noigea to her ksuba, because if the husband has to make her drink, if al pi halacha it's established that she did stira, and the husband does not want to make her drink, he has to pay her the ksuba, because al pi din she has the right to go drink the Sotah water, and if she's pure, to claim her ksuba. So it's his responsibility now to make her drink. Now, the Mishnah now moves on to how can we establish Tumah? And Tumah is also Nageya two things. First of all, it's Nageya if she can drink. If we know that she became Tamei, the Sotah water is not going to work. It only works to identify in a suffix situation. We don't know if she became Tamei or not. Was she really Tamei or not? That is one level of proof that we need, and for that we need any weak level of proof, and any type of edus is acceptable, as the Mishnah will say. Now, an additional level was that if she became tamei, she loses her ksuba. That we also accept any edus, but not someone who hates her, and the Mishnah brings 5 examples of those who hate her. So let's see. The Mishnah says a single witness is believed to establish tuma, even if it's an eved, even if it's a shivcha. All these are believed. Now, as far as though to make her lose her ksuba, that can be someone who hates her, and that would be someone who has competition with her. So that's her mother-in-law, the daughter of her mother-in-law, her co-wife, or even her yevimta, meaning someone who's married to her husband's brother's wife. That's someone who is married to her husband's brother, that she could potentially fall to yibam to her husband and become a tzara. And the daughter of her husband. All these are believed to establish tumah, but not to make her lose her ksuba. Now, how do you know that this is true, that a weak testimony is accepted? So here, the Mishnah brings a pasuk, but before it does that, it shows that you can actually bring a kal vachomer that should indicate the otherwise. We know that stira, which makes her usher to her husband temporarily, at least until the Sotah water is drunk, stira, you need to have multiple witnesses, and this is the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. You have to have multiple witnesses, and then you would think, well, if to establish a temporary isser you need multiple witnesses, so tumah, which would be establishing a permanent isser, you should for sure have to have multiple witnesses. That's what you would think, but the Torah tells me otherwise, because it says in the pasuk describing tumah, it says ve'eid ein ba. Now the Gemara, as we've seen earlier in the Vav, and we'll see later as well, ve'eid here means 2 witnesses, and it's saying that there's no 2 witnesses, but there is 1 witness. And it says v'hiloi nispasa, that we haven't identified permanently clearly what happened. But had we identified clearly, even with just 1 witness, it would have been enough. So you see, therefore, that 1 witness is enough to establish tumah and resolve the issue. Okay, these are all those halachos. Now the Mishnah gets into cases where you have contradictory testimony as to whether tumah happened or not, and the Mishnah is going to bring us 3 or 4 cases. So the first one is, what happens if 1 witness says that she was Tameya and 1 witness says she was not Tameya? Or even if you have 2 women, 1 says she was Tameya and 1 says she was not Tameya. So the halacha is that they contradict each other and they cancel out. Therefore, we don't know, and we remain with a suffix, and she can drink the Sotah water. Now, if she has 1 witness that says she's Tameya and 2 said, you can't possibly know, you were with us, you weren't there, you don't know, and therefore we still have a suffix, again, she drinks the Sotah water. And the third case is if you have 2 witnesses that said she became Tameya, and 1 said you don't know, so we believe the 2 against the 1, and therefore we've established Tumah, and she does not drink the Sotah water. We now begin the Gemara. The Gemara asks that, why do we have to learn from a Gzeira Shav, from the word Dovar by Motza Ba Ervaz davar, that you don't believe less than 2 witnesses to establish kinoi. So Gemara says there's a different source for that, and that's because in the Torah, when it says you need 2 witnesses, it says ki matzah ba ervas davar, you require 2 witnesses for this, but only for this. But for kini and stira, you don't require 2 witnesses. So why don't we use that as a source? So the Gemara says, you're right, it is what we meant to use. Matzah ba ervas davar, only she requires 2, but kini and stira don't require 2 witnesses. What we were asking was, what perhaps 1 witness should also be enough for a regular tumah, not in the case of a site at all. No kinu and stira. There's 2 witnesses that a woman was mizana. There's 1 witness that a woman was mizana. Should we accept that or not? So that was what we learned from Ba. That's what we learned from davar. It says matzah ba ervas davar, and it says l'shnayim edim yalkum davar. You require 2 witnesses for that situation. 1 is not enough. The Gemara now questions the halacha which we said when you have 1 aid that says she became tameya, 1 aid that says she did not become tameya, it remains a suffix. So because they cancel each other out. The Gemara asks, why is that true? Before the Gemara gets into that, the Gemara shows that 1 aid is accepted to say tameya. And where do you see that? So the Gemara, again, as we've seen mentioned in the Mishnah, the Gemara here expands it. It says of aid ein ba, there's no witness. Aid means 2 witnesses. How do we know that? Because elsewhere the Torah has to specify lo yakum aid echad be Yisrael or beish. So aid specifies echad to show that if it doesn't specify echad, it means 2. And that's why when it means 1, it has to say aid echad. Therefore, when it says aid ein ba, it means 2 witnesses. You don't have 2 witnesses, implying that there is 1 witness. And it says v'hilo nisbasa, to show, as we've explained in the Gemara in Daf Vav, that had she been isbasa, had she been caught, the testimony would have been accepted. So 1 aid would have been enough. So there we see that 1 aid is enough. So now we've established that 1 aid should be enough to establish a tumah. So Mar's question is, we have a rule that Ula says, anytime less than full aidis is acceptable, anytime 1 aid is accepted, it counts as multiple aid. That's true. The Torah here accepts 1 aid. So an aid that says that she's tmeya counts as 2 aidim. So if another aid now comes, another single aid, and he doesn't have any special nemanis, he's just 1 aid, and he says that she was not tmeya, so why is it 1 against 1? The first one counts as 2, it should be 2 against 1. We should go with the first one, not with the second one. That's the Gemara's kasha based on this rule of Ula, that the first one, once he's accepted, once the halachas he's accepted, counts as 2. So Gemara quotes that from Ula, quotes it from Rav Yitzchak. Now, so the Gemara offers a couple of answers here. So the first answer is, Ula says, you have to change the text over here, and it has to say, she does not drink. It's not that you believe you have a suffix and she drinks. Really, the halacha is that you go with the first aid, and she does not drink. We've established tumah. That's what Rabbi Yitzchak is also. You've established a tumah. Now Rabbi Chi disagrees. Rabbi Chi says no, she drinks.